Yo, Godzilla -1. Holy shit. So you got this dude named Shikisama, right? He landed in a spot called Odo Island. Turns out he's supposed to be some type of kamikaze pilot, yo. Now, supposedly he talked to Kishibawa and his men or whatever like that, and he thought something was wrong with the plane. But they couldn't find nothing wrong with it. So it turns out later on that night, all this ruckus and commotions happening. We look into the water, we see these certain types of fish. I'll explain that later. Next thing you know, all this ruckus and mayhem is going off. Guess what? Motherfucker Godzilla's on the goddamn island. So niggas don't know what the fuck to do, right? So Tachibana tells Shikisama to go towards that plane, right? He got one of the big fighter guns on and starts shooting the fuck out of it. He somehow ends up getting to the plane, but he freezes up. Godzilla starts walking towards the rest of the men. These niggas panic and start shooting. And Godzilla starts wiping all these niggas out. Shikisama got stared out the plane, you know what I'm saying? And I guess Godzilla ended up flipping the damn plane over. And let's be honest, the guns on there weren't gonna do shit to him. We wake up the next day, bottom line is Godzilla's gone. Shikisama gets up and sees a bunch of dead bodies, but they lined up. I'm like, who the hell lined up the bodies? Turns out Tachibana was the only one else still alive with him. And he blames him for getting his men killed because he got scared to try to shoot him on the plane. I'm thinking to myself, come on, yo. That bullets was not gonna do shit to him. That little ass fighter jet is not fucking with Godzilla. But I get why he feels some type of way, because all his men died. Somehow he ends up getting back to his boat with like a bunch of soldiers, right? They give him a message, right? He ends up giving him some money, and there was a letter in there. He gets back to his hometown, but it's completely fucked. It's been incinerated. Sumiko's next door neighbor tells him like the whole thing was burnt down, you know what I'm saying? Your parents dead, her kids were dead, everybody done deal dead as shit. So you gotta think, this is like wartime back in like 1943. And they've been fighting against these air raids for a while. Now my question is, the entire town was incinerated, so you thinking to yourself, was it really the air raids, or did Godzilla come over there and fuck niggas up over there too? The town's all fucked up, they trying to rebuild shit. There's one chick's running with a baby in her hand, because some people are chasing after her. She gives the baby to Shikisama and it starts running. He goes off at this random corner and then she ends up popping up. Why these men were chasing after her, I have no idea. Well, her name is Norika, right? And her baby's name is Kiko. Now, he really don't want nothing to do with her because he's been traumatized and shit, but she ends up staying with him. Next thing you know, they just start living together. Next day, Sumiko's like, yeah, you just picking up people off the street? She's like, nah, she just decided to live there. So it's been about 4 months, right? She's still been staying there the whole time, right? But here's the thing. Shikisama ends up getting a job, riding on his boat. Now he's got his crew members or whatever like that. They used to be part of the army and soldiers, whatnot. I think they were more part of the Navy though, but even still. Being on this boat is like some kamikaze shit too, because the reason that they're doing is, it's a boat made out of wood, but it's got metal plates at the bottom. Now, why is that? Their job is to detect landmines that the US government left behind over time. The metal's supposed to be able to detect them and pull them out the water. And then they shoot them with the guns and blow them shit the fuck up. Now, obviously, Norika doesn't want him doing this, but it's getting him some money so baby can have food and everything like that, you know, to live. They had to bring repairs on the house because of the rain. It was all fucked up. Now, one time they're on the boat, they go on this mission, but here's the thing. They see another boat that was completely wrecked. And it wasn't wrecked by another boat or some machine guns or nothing like that. The boat had these big-ass claw marks on it. You know what fucking time it was. Godzilla was out that bitch. Now, the thing is, they're basically out there as bait until the Takeo tank comes out there so it can wipe out whatever the fuck's been going on. But we all know what's been going on. Now, the thing is, the squad don't know what's making all these marks or whatever like that. But then Shikisama finally tells them, and they're just like, what? Like, what type of creature? A monster? And then they see a bunch of these weird fish surrounding the area. We're like, oh shit, you know what time it is. See, the weird fish is an indication that Godzilla's in their area. Now, the thing is, they happen to have 2 of these landmines on the boat. And I'm glad they did that shit. Here comes Godzilla flipping over the other boat, and then they gotta get the gear started so they can get away or whatever like that. And Godzilla's just stalking them. You just see him like, dan, 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 dan. So they launch one of the mines and then shoot at it and try to blow him up. Ain't doing nothing. So then they go try to launch the second one inside of his mouth. Blowing up all in his mouth, it caused a little bit of damage. It slowed him down a tad bit, but all of a sudden you see his face starts regenerating. You're like, oh shit, these niggas is fucked. So right when you think they done deal, all of a sudden the Takeo tank comes out of nowhere and starts lacing. Godzilla goes down, or so we thought. Because at the bottom of the ocean, you see his scales all charged up. They about to turn blue. We're like, oh shit. Launches a fucking blue beam throughout the water, his little heat ray, and wipes out the entire Takeo ship. Done deal, dead as shit. Next thing we know, Shikisama is waking up in a hospital bed. Now I'm like, wait a minute. How the fuck did Shikisama and his crew make it out of there out there shit? Did Godzilla just stop fucking with him after he lost his death beam? He talks to one of his crew members named Mr. Fuji. We just go call him that for right now because bottom line, he's the smartest guy in the group. So Shikisama wants to alert people about this Godzilla, but the thing is, they're trying to keep it under wraps. They don't want a whole full-wide panic and mayhem and confusion going on. Well, the government doesn't, but anyway. So about a couple years go by. They rebuild up parts of the city or whatever like that, but then they move over to another city called Ginza. I think it was Ginza. Anyway. Now, the thing is, Shikisama's been having these nightmares all the time. I mean, for good reason. He saw fucking Godzilla and then all the nightmares he had from the wars and whatnot. All his family dying, his whole damn village dying and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Now, the thing is, Narika's always been there by his side, whatever like that, but he's never told her about his troubles and everything like that that's happening on the other side with the war and all that. So it gets to the point he finally breaks down to her. He talks about himself. He blames himself for Tachibana's men dying. I'm like, dude, that gun on that fighter jet was not going to fuck with Godzilla. Hell, you were trying to throw goddamn landmines in his mouth for that shit to still work. Did that little piece of shit ass little fighter jet gun was going to do something? Like, no, it wasn't. But he still feels responsible for all this stuff to this day. But she always tried to relax him, calm him down, and she's been sticking with him ever since. Kiko gets a little bit older. She's doing drawings and stuff like that. Shikisama's still doing his thing on seas. And we found out Narika ended up getting a job. So Sama's like, all right, you got a job. Who's going to watch after Kiko? And she says Sumiko's been watching after her from time to time. So he's like, all right, cool. But he ain't had to go nowhere this particular day, so he pretty much chilled out with Kiko. All of a sudden, you hear this crazy-ass alarm going off. We're like, oh, shit. This nigga Godzilla that made it to Ginza. And then you really hear the music. He starts tearing around the town, knocking over buildings. Everything you expect to see is on Godzilla shit. And then while Narika's on the train, she looks in the distance and she finally sees it for herself. Godzilla, nigga. Godzilla bites into one cart on the train or whatever that. She's hanging on the other part, you know what I'm saying? But she's looking down. She ends up falling in the water. Godzilla walking around terrorizing niggas. You see all the people running, whatever like that, gets to a point where she stops and looks at him and was like, what are you stopping to look for? Run. And then Shikisama comes out of nowhere and saves her, whatever like that. They get the run in. Now, obviously, Sumiko's watching after Kiko. Then all of a sudden, you got these destroyer tanks, all that, try to lace the Godzilla. They give it all types of beats and everything like that, but it ain't doing nothing. Then the scale starts turning blue. We're like, oh shit, he about to throw the hate beam. That shit sounds like some Sonic 3 effects, like rip, 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 rip. Bam! Everything gets wiped out, you know what I'm saying? And then the kickback, you know what I'm saying? Buildings all fall and flash and all types of shit, whatever like that. And then what happened was, Nariki ends up pushing Sama into a fucking corner. She gets blown back with the debris. I'm like, no! Shikisama wakes up, sees all the destruction and the mayhem. Godzilla's like 2 blocks down the street. Godzilla at that point, I guess, had enough destruction, went back in the sea. 20,000 people injured, 30,000 people dead as shit. He gets back to his house, his people's all around, Sumiko around, Kiko around. And we see Narika's picture on the box. I'm like, no, yo. Narika's dead as shit? What the fuck, man? And she sacrificed herself to save him. So obviously, he's all distraught. He's all fucked up inside. So it's to the point the town's all in shambles, you know what I'm saying? And they're trying to come up with a way to kill Godzilla. We're like, fuck this shit. We ain't gonna survive. We gotta do something. So Shikisama, Mr. Fuji, and the crew, they end up going to like the town hall chief or whatever like that. And they all pulled together because somebody has this great big plan. Turns out Mr. Fuji's the one with the plan. So his plan is to get a bunch of these like Freon capsules or whatever, and to find some way to tie it around Godzilla, but they gotta get him to the water to do it. And the capsules will put enough pressure to sink Godzilla down to the bottom of the ocean or whatever like that. It has to be at least over like 15,000 feet deep or some shit like that. So that's why they gotta lure him into a certain area. Now they're like, okay, so what if plan A doesn't work? Plan B is to have floats around the Freon capsule, and I guess it's going to corner him into a certain position or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what that was supposed to do, but Shikisama is like, yo, is going to be able to kill him? But Mr. Fuji can't give him a definitive answer. So they're going to find a way to go along with these 2 plans, and they're thinking to themselves that they're thinking about the region of what Godzilla's doing. He might be back in about another 10 days. We're like, oh shit. So after a while, Shikisama gets on board, and he's got his own plan. He needs the best fighter jet he could get because his plan is to lure Godzilla into the trap. So the doc says they got this Shigen airplane or whatever like that. It's supposed to have like high-tech equipment, all types of stuff in it, whatever like that. You got the machine guns, blah, 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 all that works. The only problem is it's not able to fly, and they need a mechanic. The thing is, Shikisama only wants one particular mechanic to work on this. He's going to try to get Tachibana, yo. Nigga. So he went to registries trying to look everywhere for Tachibana and cannot find him and shit. So he puts out this fake newsletter about blaming him for his crew dying. I'm like, wow. But as he's going home, Shikisama gets hit in the back of his head and it's Tachibana. And he said, I knew you wasn't going to come out of hiding, so I had to force you out with that dumbass letter I put out. And he tells him he needs his help to fix this plane so he could kill Godzilla. Tachibana's like, man, fuck out of here. I'm not helping you. You got my crew killed. And he tells him he wants atones for his sins. Basically, he wants him to install massive explosives inside the plane so he can fly into the creature's mouth and kill him himself. Killing himself in the process. Basically, he's trying to atone for Taibana's men. That gave him the second thought to actually work on his plane. But that's why he needed Tachibana to work on his plane, because nobody in their right mind would fix this plane up like this to let him put himself at risk. Especially if they assume tying up Godzilla with some Freon chambers and sticking him at the bottom of the ocean isn't gonna work. A creature that lives in the ocean, by the way. Yeah. So the squad getting all these plans together and whatnot. And then Mr. Fuji gives everybody the speech about not dying, not committing suicide, all this other stuff. Now, obviously, this hits Shikisama in the head, you know what I'm saying? It's touching. And the fact you gotta be there for Kiko. And a lot of people around you do not want you to commit suicide just because your girl's gone. And they know you got tendencies in your head because you started off as a kamikaze pilot. So he ends up going to see Tachibana. And we see he's been working on a plane. He removed like some type of guns and everything like that. And instead, the inside part's got like these 2 hydrogen bombs and shit. And the bombs are enough to be on some nuclear explosion type shit. Mushroom cloud, nigga. And he tells him the front part he's got to pull this lever to activate the release. But then he tells him something else. And the only reason he tells him this, well, I'll tell you in a minute. Now it's time for the showdown. Now the problem is, Godzilla came early. He broke through the first line of defense. So now, Shikisama got hurt to get to the fight. He sees Godzilla start circling around him. You know what I'm saying? Try to get him to follow him, whatever like that. So he starts following towards that sea. He ends up blowing his death beam and hitting a fucking building. But the thing is, everybody's scared at first, but Mr. Fuji, though, he gotta take time to charge that shit up. So they start circling around him, throwing out the Freon gas containers, whatever like that. And essentially, it worked. They sticking them all the way down to the bottom of the sea. For a second, it all of a sudden stopped. Godzilla said, fuck that, I ain't going that far down. So be like, all right, now they gotta deploy the what's-the-names? The inflatable bags or something like that. But here's the thing. Godzilla started chewing through the freaking bags. We're like, oh, snap, he's not gonna come back up. So now he's sitting there like 800 feet in the water. Now, what was the plan here, even if they pulled him back up? But anyway, then a bunch of little boats come in for some reinforcement, you know what I'm saying, to try to hold him down, but even that didn't work. Till then, Godzilla's coming back up out the water, and he's charging it up again, and everybody just sitting there waiting for death. Right at that point, here comes Shikisama. We like, oh, shit. And niggas looking at him like, we already know what he's about to do. He ends up flying the plane straight into Godzilla's mouth as he's deploying the death beam. So the beam hit the daggone bomb and all that. Motherfucking head exploded and shit. Drowned at the bottom of the sea, nigga. But the crazy thing, they look up in the sky. Shikisama's got the parachute. He had the ejection seat in the daggone plane. He's still alive. So then we get a flashback to him being on the plane. Tachibana's seeing pictures of Shikisama's family or whatever like that. Akiko and everybody, right? He's like, man, I don't want you to die. I want you to live, but I still want you to finish off Godzilla, nigga. And that's when he was telling her he employed the ejection seat. So he's touching back down on land. Sumika greets him with Akiko, and she gives him this letter. It was a letter with some money in it, but we don't know what the letter says. Next thing we see, Shikisama is running through this hospital, right? And he goes into this room, and we see who's sitting on the bed. Turns out it's Norika. I'm like, how? How the fuck is she still alive? How did she escape this? She wasn't buried under some shit. What, when, where, why, how? She was one of the 20,000 people that was just injured. Why didn't he get this information? He was unaware of this shit for like 2 weeks. Then the final scene, we see Godzilla stick it down or whatever like that. But then his face starts regenerating again. We're like, oh my God. If he had flew in his mouth, he would have died for nothing. Godzilla mayhem, you know what I'm saying? All classic, all great. Let me just do it again. Godzilla -1 on Netflix, nigga. Check that shit out.